You know, most people think love is something soft, something emotional, something that belongs at home or in romance, but certainly not in the workplace. But here's the truth. Love is the most powerful, disruptive, and courageous force we have. And when we learn to practice it daily, it changes everything. Our leadership, our relationships, our decisions, and the legacy of our lives. Now, this is Speaking from the Heart series, where faith meets everyday life. I'm your host, Richard Fontenay, and together we explore how gospel wisdom and universal values can guide us in our work, our relationships, and our personal growth. And join us on our other podcasts, Affiliate Marketing Secrets and Coaching Talk series. And you can also find us on the www.fontemagazine.com, and the links are below. And today we're exploring what it means to live the way of love, not as a feeling, but as a spiritual discipline, a daily practice, and a gospel-centered way of being. Richard Rohr says it beautifully in his book, Falling Upward. This love ethic must be at the center of our whole life, or it cannot be effective or real in the crucial moments of conflict. We have to practice it, drawing our lives from this source: thought, word, emotion, and in everyday life. Now that's the heart of today's message. So let's break it down into 6 parts. 1, love is active and not passive. 2, a story to illustrate that point. 3, the gospel calls us to love in the real world. And 4, what that looks like in business, work, and in life. 5, bringing it home, and this is more of a personal reflection. And number 6, we'll then conclude with some key questions for us to ponder. So let's get going. Love is active and not passive. Love is more than just a feeling. Love is more than tenderness. Love is more than vulnerability. Scripture is relentlessly clear. Love is behavior, expressed outwardly through patience, kindness, truth, courage, and sacrifice. St. Paul gives us the most concise leadership manual ever written in 1 Corinthians. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Notice, none of these are feelings. They are actions. They require intentionality. They require discipline. They require the decision to act for the good of others, even when we don't feel like it. And this is why love belongs in the workplace. This is why love belongs in leadership. And this is why love belongs in business. Because love is not just sexual, romantic, or emotional. It is ethical, spiritual, and transformational. Now here's a story to illustrate love in action in the workplace. Maria was a team leader overseeing a small team at a nonprofit organization. One day, her team made a mistake that cost the organization money and caused tension with a partner. And everyone expected Maria to respond with frustration. Instead, she said 5 powerful words. Let's learn from this together. Now, these 5 words changed the room. Her tone stayed calm. Her posture was open. Her heart remained steady. And that day, she taught them more about leadership than any training manual ever could. Was she disappointed? Yes. Was she stressed? Absolutely. But she still chose love through patience, kindness, respect, and a commitment to their growth. And that's the way of love. It opens doors. It heals relationships. It builds trust. And it strengthens teams. And finally, it transforms outcomes. Now let's turn to number 3. The gospel calls us to love in the real world. Jesus constantly brought love into every corner of life, especially the places people least expected it. He said, "Love one another as I have loved you," in John chapter 13. And in Matthew chapter 22, he said, "Love your neighbor as yourself." And earlier on in Matthew, he said, "Do to others what you would have them do to you." Now, these teachings weren't designed for Sunday mornings. They were meant for every day, for the marketplace, the home, the workplace, the boardroom, the project meeting, and the difficult conversations. Jesus loved publicly. He lived love in conflict. He lived love with outsiders. And he lived love with the brokenhearted. He lived love with those who misunderstood him. And so, as well, we are called to do the same. This is not religious, as many people might think. It is relational, a way to heal people with compassion and goodness. So how does this look like in the business work and in our lives? Well, let's break it down into what living the way of love really looks like. In business, we can treat people as human beings and not as objects to exploit. We can make decisions with integrity, even when shortcuts seem easier. We can foster relationships rooted in trust and compassion and long-term perspective. And we can lead with honesty and humility. And in the workplace, we can choose patience during conflict rather than reacting with frustration. We can support your coworkers rather than compete with them. We can speak truthfully with respect and courage. And we can practice forgiving others when they fail or misunderstand us. And in life, we can slow down and listen carefully. We can be generous with our words. We can offer support without judgment. Let your actions show God's goodness even when no one is around to see. In essence, to love is to live in harmony with God, who is love itself. Now let me share a personal story with you. I remember a moment when I was rushing between commitments, overwhelmed and deeply frustrated. And I snapped at someone. Quick, sharp, and unintended. And as soon as it happened, I felt it. Tugged at my heart. And truly, folks, this is me under pressure, and especially when I'm tired and much to my chagrin. And later that evening, I reread Jesus' words. "By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." And I realized I didn't love well that day. So I telephoned the person and apologized. I took responsibility for my behavior. I offered grace, and fortunately, grace was offered back to me. Now that moment really resonated with me. Love, true love, demands humility. It demands honesty. It demands the willingness to start all over again. So in conclusion, we can live the way of love in both good times and in difficult times. The key is to take responsibility and accountability for our actions. Love is not something you only feel. Love is something you practice. It is our daily practice to align ourselves with God's unfolding love, so that during the big conflicts, important decisions, and intense pressures, we are already shaped by love. And believe me when I say this, it isn't easy. Richard Rohr reminds us to prepare for life's hardest moments by making sure that we look after love in the smallest ones. So today, in conclusion, let's ask ourselves, what word or phrase resonated with us? What touched our hearts? What can we do today to put love into action in our business, our work, or our life? And who might need a word of encouragement, a moment of patience, or a gesture of grace today? How can we share this reflection with someone else? Now I leave you with this final heartfelt thought. Love shapes the world, one choice at a time. And now, be sure to tune in to our next episode, where we'll focus on living with vision and change from a gospel and a universal perspective. I'm Richard Fontenay. I'll see you next time, if not before. Bye now.